welcome to the 5th Cup Blue Stripe training video. We'll recap some of the new techniques first, then we'll move on to the pattern, and then we'll move on to the new set sparring. Charnwood TKD. Chumbi. The first new technique we're going to look at is a side back fist strike in X stance. The actual back fist itself is the same as in pattern Do-san, apart from instead of stepping, it's more of a jumping motion. 1. Landing in X stance, front foot facing forwards, rear foot tucked behind it, and only the ball of the foot is touching the floor. 2. One, 2. The next new technique we're going to look at is an X fist pressing block. This one occurs in your new 2-step sparring that we'll cover later. 1. So this block, the leg that's at the front is the hand that's underneath, making an X formation. We're actually blocking with the back of the forearm here, not the little finger side. Okay, so the thumb should be pointing upwards. The next new technique we're going to cover is an upwards palm block in L stance. This block, as we take up the stance, the hand comes round and up in a circular motion, and the opposite hand comes to the waist. We're blocking with the palm heel here. The next new technique we're going to cover is a double forearm block in walking stance. The start position for this block is similar to a forearm guarding block, but the front hand is turned around the opposite way. 1. So we start nice and high, bring the arms down to here to finish the block. You notice that the set of knuckles are facing away instead of towards us. And also with this block, the rear hand is right up close to the elbow, whereas if you're making a guarding block, there's a bit of a gap there. So this one is right up against the elbow there. Also at this level, there's one new kick, and that's a reverse turning kick. The reverse turning kick, we start from a guarding position. We're going to kick with the rear leg. So we coil the body first. So we're going to turn the head, then the shoulders, and finally we start to bring the kick round. So it's here, 1, 2, then the leg starts to lift to there. Now when you do the kick, make sure you don't try and lift the leg all the way up and then turn around. The leg needs to come up as you turn. If you try and bring the leg up beforehand, it becomes very difficult. What tends to happen then is you start hopping on the spot. Okay? So it's heads, shoulders, then legs. Okay? And try and keep the legs straight with this kick, because there's another similar kick called a reverse hooking kick, which is almost the same, but the leg actually hooks back to hit the target. Okay, so make sure you don't bring the leg back in until you've completed the kick. So once more, and then bring it back in. This kick, the quicker you do it, the easier it is. If you try to do it slow to get the technique better, it sometimes makes it worse. So once you've got the idea of the mechanics of the kick, try and do it a little bit quicker. Okay, so that's a reverse turning kick. The next technique we're going to cover is a new one that occurs in the pattern. It's called palm hooking block. You take up a walking stance, the hands cross almost like for a low block. The hand comes over the top and downwards. The web of the thumb is open here. Okay, this can turn it into a grasping block as well. It's performed both on the front hand and the rear hand in the pattern. Again, with this block, it doesn't stop and then go from the start position. The hand travels smoothly through the start position. Good. The next new technique is a twin knife hand block, similar to the twin forearm block in pattern 1-yo, but we're using the knife hand instead. Starts exactly the same way, wrists crossed, knuckles facing away, and we block. If I do a side view for you, you can see that the knife hand is deflecting above the head. Make sure there is an angle on the arm, don't have it flat, otherwise the deflection won't happen for you. The front hand, the fingertip should be roughly level with the shoulder. The next new technique is also in the new pattern. This is called a front elbow strike. We're going to step into walking stance and we're going to do the elbow strike off the rear leg. 1. We use the opposite hand as a focus. In application, we can imagine that we've grabbed the opponent and we're driving the elbow into them. 2. 1. 2. The next new technique we're going to cover is a twin upset punch. This will occur in your 2-step sparring. We take up a walking stance, circle the hands back round to the hip, and then drive them through upside down and parallel with the floor, elbows level with the body. We don't extend this one like we would a normal punch, it stops here. 1, 2, 1, 2. The final new techniques for this grade are twin vertical punch, again coming back from the waist, fists extending to jaw level. The next is a flat fingertip thrust. This is also to the high section, eye level or throat level. We step forwards into our walking stance. It comes out the same way as a punch would, except we open the hand out to use the fingertips. The final new technique is a knee kick. This occurs in your 2-step sparring. We grab the opponent first around the back of the neck. We pull them forwards as we bring the knee up. In the set sparring, it's important to do both actions and not just leave the hands there to do the knee, because it won't have the desired effect. Okay, let's now move on to our new pattern, which is pattern Yul Gok. Yul Gok is named after the great philosopher and scholar Yi Ai, 1536 to 1584 AD, nicknamed the Confucius of Korea. The 38 movements refer to the 38th line of latitude, and the diagram of the pattern represents the calligraphy for scholar. Chumi. Good, so that was the slow version to help you get the idea of the pattern. There's a few things in there that I should mention before we do it at normal speed. The first is the first 6 movements, which appear to be slow punches followed by fast punches. From Chumbi position, we're extending the leg out into sitting stance, bringing the left hand up to the punch position. It's not actually a punch, we can use it as a measure or distancing method. So it comes up this way. The next 2 punches are in fast motion, so it's a double punch. And then the same the other side. Here. There's double punches later in the pattern as well. For example, this block, which is actually a high block, not a middle block, followed by a front kick and a double punch there. The next new motion in the pattern is continuous motion. This occurs with the palm hooking blocks and the punch following it. The way this works is instead of going 1, 2, 3, we do the second block and then straight into the punch. So it's 1, 2, 3, rather than 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the last block and the punch are linked together. The only other motion is the jumping motion, which we did discuss briefly in the new technique section. So with the X stance, we're this way in the pattern. With the X stance, instead of being a step, it's actually a small jump. This way. Now we'll do the pattern at normal speed. Chuẩn 试一下。We'll now move on to our two-step sparring. In the blue stripe syllabus, there are 4 two-step sparring exercises. The difference between 3-step and 2-step is 2-step uses a bigger variety of techniques, especially in the attacking phase, whereas in 3-step the attacks are always the same. In 2-step sparring, each attack sequence is different and each defending sequence is different also. Chumbi. The other difference is we start from a right leg back guarding block position for the attacker. The attack portion for sequence number 1 is a high section punch, a low section front snap kick. The defence portion is right leg back, rising block with a forearm, set back again, X-fist pressing block, pull back, twin vertical punch that we discussed earlier. Number 2, again, right leg back, we move forwards, L stance, side punch like we did in 1-yo at the previous grade, midsection turning kick. The defence sequence is right leg back, upwards palm block, that's blocking the side punch, a waist block, blocking the turning kick, then we slide in, L stance, side elbow thrust. Okay, so it's called a side elbow thrust because of the direction of our stance. If I take up an L stance, you can see my body's half facing. Okay, so technically one side of my body is this side and the other side is that way. If I was full facing, it'll be front and back. Okay, so if I do the strike from the side, you can see my body's half facing, so that's my left and that's my right. Number 3. First attack is a low section front kick. We step down, then we step forwards again. Twin vertical punch. The defence portion. Right leg back, X-fist pressing block. Left leg back, wedging block as in pattern Dosan. Grab around the back of the neck. Knee kick, pulling them on. With number 3, you will find on a class you may be asked to let the grip slip. This is for safety reasons. Once you've got the hang of it, it's best if you can keep the grip because it's more practical. Otherwise we get into the habit of letting the hands slip off the person when we do the knee instead of holding on to them. Okay? But you probably will find in a class you'll be asked to let the hands slip, at least initially. Number 4. The first technique is a high section, flat fingertip thrust. The second, middle section side kick. We land this way. The defence portion, knife hand rising block, inwards palm block. Now when you perform this, it will push the opponent off balance, and that's why they ended up standing at a strange angle just now. Front kick to the base of the spine, twin upset punch. Good. So the new semi-free sparring that we're going to do is semi-free intermediate. And the way this works is similar to basic, but we have more of a choice of what kicks we're going to throw. So the attacker starts right leg back guarding block. And we have a choice of front kick, side kick, turning kick, or back kick. We try to include a back kick at this level. defence, as before, is waist blocks. The counter-attack for your semi-free sparring is any hand technique up to the grade that you've reached so far. So for example, from that third block I could move off palm heel strike, I could move off reverse knife hand, I could move off back fist. Okay, so that there's so many variations for that counter. The important thing to try to remember is to use techniques the way that you'd use them in free sparring, keeping the other hand protecting the face, rather than coming back to the waist. If you do, that's okay, but in future always try to guard yourself whatever technique it is you're doing. So this is another example of the attacking phase. Again, you can choose whatever combination you see fit. In the final part of this video, we're going to discuss free sparring. Free sparring is, as it says, completely free of any pre-arranged techniques or actions. It is always light contact, and we do always wear protective equipment when sparring. Please don't spar unless you're under the supervision of a qualified instructor. So what we're going to discuss first is the footwork to use when sparring. Now, up to now we've done mainly stepping through stances. With sparring, we want to be a little bit more mobile. So, feet about shoulder width apart, just bouncing on the balls of the feet. Try not to bounce off the floor. Just bouncing gently on the balls of the feet, flexing the knees. Now, there's two ways we can move. We can either move the foot closest to the direction of travel. So if I want to go forwards, I'm going to move my front foot first and push off with the back one, which follows. If I'm going backwards, I step back with the rear foot and push off with the front. And it's the same if I'm going to my side. I step with my right foot and push off with the left, or step with the left and push off with the right. Okay, we can also skip change, just like we do when we do our front rising kick, depending which way we're around we want to be. Good. Also in free sparring, we have two different guarding positions. We have a guard for longer range, where we're using the front hand to deflect against kicks as an early warning system against kicks. The other one up by the head, that way we can duck either side of it. Once we move in at closer range, both hands need to come up here to protect the head when we're close in. So, longer range, shorter range. So, I'm going to discuss a couple of basic drills for sparring that you can do by yourself without a partner. The first one's called blitzing. So with blitzing, there's two ways we can do it. We can either do a quick double step, or we can leap forwards in an almost Superman style. Okay, so slowly to start with, we'll do the stepping version. We go back fist. It can be a side back fist, it can be over the top. For tournament sparring, over the top's better because all the referees can see it, but back fist to the side is a little tiny bit quicker. The second one, we move in, make a reverse punch. It's a good idea to put this hand up above your head just to deflect any incoming fire from your opponent. once you've got the hang of it, you can do it a little bit quicker. You can either do it the same way with the step in motion, or you can dive into the technique. So if we're diving into the technique, it is similar. The only difference is instead of stepping, we're launching ourselves forwards and our feet are trying to catch up to stop us from falling. Okay, so you see it's slightly different, it's a little bit more of a leap. Good. So the next drill we're going to work on is another blitz drill. We're going to put an axe kick on the start of it, or a downwards kick. So from that sparring position, front leg comes up in the centre line of the body and outwards, and we blitz. Good. So the final drill we're going to cover for this grade is a defensive drill. Starting from our fighting position, imagine your opponent is bringing a front leg side kick towards you. We're going to use the side step from our semi-free sparring. We can parry if we want to, just in case, but we don't need to. Then we're going to go back in with our blitz. So we're using that blitz again, but in a defensive way. This way. Okay, I hope that was useful for you, as well as the new techniques. Obviously we'll be introducing sparring at this level if you haven't started already, so please take those drills away and work on them. As always, make sure you carry out your own risk assessment before you train on your own, just in case you might injure yourself or others or damage any property. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Thank you. Chariot, Kunya.